Cleveland Cavaliers have been one of the most confusing yet fun teams to watch over the past 2 years. But now with a brutal end to their season, from injuries and just facing a better team in the Boston Celtics, how do they move forward? Among other things, the Cavs have battled through injuries, trading for a big superstar, then immediately facing trade rumors about that star not being happy there, and an overall lack of playoff experience and a lack of the team playing together really hurt them. What's weird about this is two things. The first thing is typically a team so young and who just made a trade for a big superstar in this league typically gets a bit more grace from its fans and media. Being the second year out of a rebound for the Cleveland Cavaliers, fans are already to give up on players like Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and even some ready to give up on Evan Mobley. Now, while I can see the frustration from Cavaliers fans, it's never easy to lose, especially after making a big acquisition like Donovan Mitchell. I don't quite understand it. When you look at Cleveland's past, and I want to make sure this is said with no disrespect or anything like that, but when you look at Cleveland's past and you take out the LeBron years, there's not much there. Especially when you look at the way they had to rebuild and the way they did rebuild. It was a rough couple years in Cleveland and has been historically for the organization. But what they have now is hope. They have a bit of a path to go down. Do they want to win now, or do they want to win in the future and build this team through the draft and through trade acquisitions? The second thing I find so weird is what we mentioned in the intro. The almost immediate rumors of Donovan Mitchell not going to sign a contract extension or even going so far to ask for a trade after only being there for a little over a year at that point, and now it's gotten even worse. Especially when you consider Donovan Mitchell was under contract through the 25-26 season, and then has a player option to either accept or decline at the end of that. There's still quite a few games left for him to play in a Cleveland Cavaliers jersey, and that player option is no joke. But while Donovan Mitchell is the biggest piece of the Cleveland Cavaliers puzzle, he's not the only piece of this Cleveland Cavaliers puzzle. Let's talk about it. Let's add who I think most people that view the Cavs and Cavs fans think is their second best player in Darius Garland. There have been a ton of rumors and speculation around Garland, whether or not he's happy with his role since the team traded for Donovan Mitchell, whether he wants to leave, whether he wants to stay. Hasn't really come out and said too much about it. He's just been focused on basketball, which is the only way to handle that situation. But what I will say for this video, they can get pretty good value for a player who has shown some really high-end play out of the past few years he's been in the league. He's also shown some playing in the shadows of someone like Donovan Mitchell, which I will say, that's not hard to do when you see how good Donovan Mitchell can be. If you haven't been able to tell, this video is going to be what I think the Cleveland Cavaliers should do in this offseason. Also have pieces like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen who have a lot of potential and could be a part of a blockbuster trade to get a bigger player who will inevitably be set with his current organization. So now that you have the spark notes of the past 2 years of the Cleveland Cavaliers organization, let's dive into their offseason plans and what I think would be best suited for them. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers have a couple options this offseason, but I think the best course of action would be first to bolster their bench. The second part I think they should do is get an upper tier star to pair with Donovan Mitchell to really help take some of the load off of his shoulders. But let's start with Darius Garland, who seems to be the most movable piece for the Cleveland Cavaliers at this moment. About those disgruntled players, we have players who have been rumored like Joel Embiid. We have players who we know like Zach LaVine, Kevin Durant, Trae Young, Brandon Ingram, or even Julius Randle, who have been kind of off and on with their comments in the media, maybe some cryptic Twitter posts. Those are always fun to decode and stress about if you're a fan of one of those teams. But in a realistic world, and we try to live that way over here, we can probably rule out Embiid, KD, and we can definitely rule out Zach LaVine. While he's a good player, I don't think he is the best fit for someone playing alongside like Donovan Mitchell, who is another ball-dominant guard. I think we can also rule out Trae Young. While I do think that would be a fun fit in Cleveland, I also don't think it fits very well when you look at some of the shots Trae Young likes to take and the ones Donovan Mitchell likes to take. You do have two bigger guys down in the center able to rebound, but I just don't think that fits. That leaves us with Julius Randle and Brandon Ingram. Now, I'm going to cut Julius Randle out just because I don't think his trade value is insanely high right now. So we're going to target Brandon Ingram in the ESPN Trade Finder. Now, I must be clear. In the ESPN Trade Finder, you cannot add picks. you can only add 3 teams. So I was pretty limited in this situation. But what I will say is that we're going to take this situation in a vacuum. Now, Brandon Ingram for Darius Garland straight up works. So in a vacuum and in this hypothetical, we are going to accept that trade as the Cleveland Cavaliers GM, and we now have Brandon Ingram paired with Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland is now on the New Orleans Pelicans. Now that we've made our first trade of the offseason, moving one of the core pieces of our team, we are now going to focus on bolstering our bench. We've got the first step of our plan, which was getting a star. Now the second part of our plan is now enacted to get our bench. We have Jared Allen, we have Evan Mobley. Those are the 2 biggest pieces we can work with. And since a lot of Cavs fans seem to be high on Evan Mobley, alongside of all of the rumors and reports we're hearing out of the front office for the Cavaliers, we're going to trade away Jared Allen. There were a lot of teams who you look at and think you could trade a few pieces here, you get a few pieces back. But I think the one team we can all agree on that is just teetering on the edge is the Chicago Bulls. There have been the past 2 seasons where they have said they're going to trade pieces, then they retract that. They're going to trade pieces, and then they retract it. So this time, they're trading pieces. They don't have a say about it. But what pieces are they going to trade away? Since we traded away Darius Garland, we want another point guard. We want another guy who can get us smart plays, who can get us the ball up the court, who can make shots when he needs to hit shots, but not be the primary scorer. And so in this trade, we're going to be traded Jared Allen to the Chicago Bulls for Kobe White and Alex Caruso. So now you have the scenario of this starting 5, which is Alex Caruso, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Brandon Ingram, and Evan Mobley. Then off the bench, you have Kobe White and Karis LeVert. You also have someone like Dean Wade, who did have a couple of good games this season and last season. You also have someone like George Niang, who has been decent, even though he is kind of a funny player and just does some crazy things on the court. He's a decent player for a role position on that team. Now, I will say, we talked about this in a couple other videos for NFL teams. If you make the trade for Darius Garland for Brandon Ingram, you're probably going to have to throw in some picks, and that involves more players as well. So you can bolster your bench in that first trade. Obviously, in the second trade, it's pretty much set up. Cleveland's probably going to have to send a pick to Chicago or vice versa, maybe add in a player to make the salaries match just a little bit more, but it was enough for the ESPN trade machine to think it was successful. So let me know where I'm wrong, where I'm right. Cleveland fans, I am definitely interested in hearing what you think. And even if you think that you don't think you should make a trade at all, let me know why. I'm very interested in this topic. I find some things in sports that some people might not find as interesting, but I find them interesting. This was definitely one of them. I'm super excited to hear your guys' thoughts, opinions, why I'm wrong, why I'm right. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment what you want to see next. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.